Hello and welcome to Tech Talks with Madonna.
Episode 8.
Our guest today is Mikaela Caron. Mikaela Caron is an iOS engineer at Lickability. She's a self-taught developer and she creates content on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. She likes sharing her knowledge about iOS development, daily life of a developer, and freelancing, and loves giving back to the community. Mikaela will talk about her community love and also how she got into iOS. I am so excited to have you. Please, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, thank you, Madonna. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, my name is Mikaela Caron. I am currently an iOS developer at a company called Lickability. So, when they started the company, Steve Jobs had said the phrase, the windows on the screen will look so good you'll want to lick them. And then they called their company Lickability. So that's where I currently work. And we are like a full-time iOS dev shop kind of thing. So we just make iOS apps.
That is amazing. And I do want to mention something before we even get to our questions of the day, that I really like what you're doing with the iOS community because I am so inspired. Actually, I need to mention a secret. I did see the way iOS community was coming along and doing amazing events, and actually I got inspired to start some for Android. So
Awesome.
Yeah, can you walk us through how that was formed, what worked, and what were the challenges? Because I feel like that is something that can really help other communities out there in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. So that's part of the background that I have. This is the one that I use for iOSDevHappyHour, which is our monthly online meetup that we have that I'm one of the organizers for. And yeah, it really all started on Twitter because Alan, the original founder, he had just tweeted out, "Hey, would you guys all want to jump on a Zoom meeting and just hang out?" Because this was about I think it was September of 2020 or so. So we were well into the pandemic of staying at home for a long time.
Yeah.
So he was like, "We just want to talk to others." So he started that, and by the actual third meeting, so the third or fourth, I believe, there were 500 people that joined this meeting, which was insane because it would just spread through on Twitter of oh, hey, we're doing this monthly meetup. You just jump on a Zoom call that we were all familiar with and everything. So it just spread by word of mouth at that point, but then it also then merged or formed into more of hanging out with other developers and seeing and talking to people who are just getting started in iOS development too, because when you're learning on your own too, sometimes it's hard to figure out how can I talk to others, either if they are more experienced or others that are just getting started. It's hard to find where is that kind of community, because you can't just search iOS developers near me. There's no directory to find anything.
Yeah.
So Twitter was sort of where all of that really kind of started and got up and running.
Wow, that is amazing. Again, congrats on that. I am very proud of you for that. And we are actually in the same group, Women Who Code. And I see you two getting involved in there, and I'm also very proud of you on that too. Now,
thank you.
Let's jump into the first question. How did you discover what you're passionate about?
So I discovered, I will say, talking about passionate as in iOS development right now, mainly because I really liked programming, and that was sort of stems from I like problem solving. So when I was younger, I saw somebody have a Rubik's Cube, and this was when I was 13 or so. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. What is that, and how are you doing that?
Yeah.
And then I went home and looked up on YouTube how to solve a Rubik's Cube, and found some video that had 1 million views or something at the time, because I wanted to learn how did somebody else do this thing. So I looked up how do I do that, and then later on that became problem solving, and then wanting to know how to do different things. And then I've always had an iPhone, so I'm sorry, but I've never had an Android phone.
Oh no!
And I'm sorry, but I hate using them every time. I'm just
wait a
why
minute.
Have you
tried the Pixel?
Yeah, and I hated it. But it was so funny because I'm trying to use it like an iPhone, and they're different, so I can't do it. It's when you switch from Windows and Mac. It's you're trying to do one thing, trying to go from print screen on Windows to Mac. It's impossible unless you looked it up. But I always had an iPhone because I had one back in the iPhone 4S, when they first came out and everything, and I just never switched off of it, which is, I mean, that's how Apple gets you. But I always had an iPhone, and because of that, I was oh, it would be really cool to make an iPhone app. So then I started searching how to do that, and then I think. Yeah, at this point, I had already done a little bit of programming, so I liked programming already. And by the time I really got into iOS development, Swift had just started coming out. So that's why I ended up sticking with Swift and iOS development.
That is super cool. And I totally understand what you mean by once you already have it, it's very hard to go back because I
Mhm.
have an Android and I have an iPhone, but my
Yeah.
love for the iPhone has never grown and it always feels complicated, you know? Like it's very hard. And actually, in
Yeah.
that perspective, I saw your unicorn carp
Yes,
and
it's
I,
my mug.
I
I
just saw
painted
it.
it myself.
That is so amazing. Can you walk us through why a unicorn? I know this
Yeah,
is off topic, but let's.
yeah, definitely. So I did this back when I think it's Memojis had just come out around like the iPhone 10 had just come out because I had the whole face tracking thing.
Yeah,
Um, and with that they had Memojis.
yeah,
And then I think the next year it was Animojis came out and it actually was not just like, oh hey, this looks kind of like you. It was more of like they had all the animals too. But
yeah,
it's I chose a unicorn as the animal mainly because all the Memojis when they first came out were not very like customizable. So
yeah,
like they all look the exact same. And I'm just like, these don't look like me for one, and for two, they all look the exact same. So I
yeah.
was like, that's okay. I'll just be a unicorn instead. So I chose the unicorn as like the thing to just the animal that I really liked out of all the animojis. I thought they were hilarious.
Yeah.
So I picked that and I put that as like my profile picture, and I have like not changed it since.
I can see the love. I totally understand the blessings of the unicorn. I love
Yes.
it.
It's
Because I've,
that, and then also, because it's an animal too, and if
yeah,
people like are not looking very closely and kind of just skim through my name, they'll think
yeah.
I'm a guy as well. So they'll be like,
Oh yeah,
"Hey, sir, can you please help me?" As opposed to like even knowing that I'm a woman.
yeah,
So like you also get like what is it? It reduces bias because of the
yeah.
fact somebody kind of doesn't really know because they'll just read Mikaela really quick and think it actually says Michael and think
Oh
it's a
yeah,
guy. And then
that's
they'll
true.
just be like, yes, like, hello, sir, can you please help me? And I'm like, first, I'm not a sir. Did you even try to look at my profile? Because it says she, her on there. Second,
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe.
I love that. Now, getting back to topic, what are some of the accomplishment that you are incredibly proud of?
I think some of the accomplishments I'm proud of would be learning iOS development mostly on my own
Hmm.
because with that, professionally wise, it's like you can learn how to code, that's one thing, but like really being able to make something like an app and websites and things,
Yeah,
you get to like see everything happen. And then when you get to publish something on the App Store, it's so exciting because you're like, wow, anybody can download this. I can tell somebody, hey, just like look up my name and they will
yeah,
like find the app that I've made like on the App Store. And that's really cool because people who are not as much into tech, they're just like, how do you even go about doing something like that? So like
hmm,
learning how to do that, I think is a really big accomplishment because it's something that like is like very difficult to figure out because like you have to first get an
yeah,
idea, then how to go about actually building it and all the like tech that's involved with all of that. And then when
yeah.
you finally get to like publish it on the App Store, it's so satisfying, I think.
I think that's a very good point because I've done something similar and it gave me that satisfaction of having spent my time. I think I built my app in like almost a year. So it
Hmm.
took a lot of time, like learning how to do it, and the resource, the design, having to iterate back because I don't have any UI UX person. So one of the things I would actually want to ask you, if somebody wanted to build an app today, what would you advise them?
So I would say if somebody wants to build an app, because my, perspective is all iOS, so I can give you
Yeah,
all the iOS resources
totally,
for everything,
totally. Yeah.
is I would say I really like Code with Chris's style of videos.
Hmm.
So I'm somebody who I like watching videos of how to do something first before actually going about doing it, as
Hmm.
opposed to reading like a blog post or something. So like I
Amazing.
like watching a video because then I can like, see how something is happening and I like that to follow along, as opposed to like sometimes when you're reading a blog post, they'll like be go to this navigator and you're like, where is it though? Like you don't even know.
Yeah.
So the first like resource I like is Code with Chris because his videos are very beginner friendly for somebody who's like never even programmed in their life before. But
Hmm.
then also, I really like Sean Allen's courses. His courses are really good for getting started as well. So both
Hmm.
of them, you can find them both on YouTube, but also like their respective websites. Sean Allen has, I think, a Teachable website, but you can look up his name and you'll like find him on YouTube and everything. And then Code
Hmm.
with Chris has his own like uh, website and everything, and then like whole paid or free courses on YouTube as well.
That's amazing. And also, I just remembered you told us that that's how you actually even got interested into programming, where you saw these Rubik cubes and you went and watched how to do it. So
Yeah.
really
It's
gets the
it's
point home.
great. You
Yeah.
can Yeah, you can really, it's like you can look up how to do anything, which is
Yeah.
really cool. Like we live in that day and age that like you can just
Yeah.
look up how to do something. Like you don't have to walk all the way to the library to grab a book and then find the book and figure out how to do something. It's you
Yeah.
can just like if you have a computer and internet connection, you can just look up how to do something. And I think that's really cool. And
Totally.
programming is one of those things too that like anybody literally can learn how to program. Like it's not something if
Yeah.
you have your computer already with you, like you have the tools necessary to
Mhm.
learn how to program. Not
Yeah.
necessarily iOS because like
Hmm.
iOS is special in the fact that generally it's you need a Mac to do that. But
Yeah.
like any other field pretty much in programming other than iOS because Apple, you can like learn how to program just like by having your computer.
That is very true. Wow. And very inspiring too, because I feel like many people have this kind of barrier where it's like people are told you cannot program if you don't know
Mhm.
math, but that's a myth. Actually, anybody can
Yes.
program. It's just you taking your time and teaching yourself and learning the language. And I also believe that once you understand one language, the others just become easily to understand and move with,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Cool. Now, I have two more questions for you, and I'm so happy that you joined us today. And I wanted to ask you, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Mikaela, right?
Yeah, yeah, Mikaela.
Mikaela. Now, you've had a lot of success. Can you walk us through what steps you took to get to where you are?
Oh, yeah. So I actually did not study programming when I was in college.
Nice.
I kind of did, and that's the
Hmm.
fun thing about like sort of my story. It's I sort of studied programming, but I also kind of didn't.
Hmm.
I went to Purdue University and I studied
Hmm.
manufacturing. So when I was in college, I studied like mechanical and electrical engineering,
Nice.
because I was an engineer. I liked like learning about how things worked because that's
Yeah.
like my whole thing was learning about problem solving. So everybody was like, "Well, you're good at math. You could be an engineer." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Okay, cool. That sounds fun." So I learned how to do that, which was mechanical and electrical. But
Hmm.
then in college, we did have to take a programming course, and it was just like your basic C programming,
Yeah.
like nothing super fancy. It's like C, like one of your base level kind of programs.
Hmm.
But I really liked that course, and out of that, I decided to minor in computer information technology, which is
Nice.
basically like kind of programming. Because it was my minor, I was allowed to choose whatever class I wanted to do as
Yeah.
long as I met the prereq. So I chose all the programming courses rather than like doing system design or something like that. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I want to program. I don't want to like what's a system? I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that or networking, so I wanted to learn programming.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that as my minor that I had, and from there I studied manufacturing. But then later on, I figured out like yes, I still really want to program. I don't want to just do it as a minor. So then that's where I started learning iOS development, and
Hmm.
that's sort of where I started my social presence. It's my goal of what was it? The very beginning of 2019. I made
Hmm.
it my New Year's resolution to learn iOS development. So if you
Amazing.
go to like my Instagram page and scroll all the way back to the beginning, it starts on January 1st of 2019, and it's me
Wow.
saying I really want to learn iOS development. So I started posting on Instagram every day
Hmm.
for like 100 days because it was like a
Yeah.
100 days of code kind of thing. I wanted to learn iOS dev, so that's what I did, and that's how I kept myself accountable to actually like learning. So
Hmm.
that's where I started like posting and figuring out and start finding a community, which was on Instagram, later
Hmm.
also on Twitter, and then despite everything that's going on Twitter at the moment. But
Yeah.
like those just social media is sort of where I found like this is where I want to keep myself accountable because I'm like posting it on the internet. Somebody is bound to see it and like
Yeah.
say, hey, you didn't post today. And it's just because like
I
it
like
feels like
that.
it's that social like pressure of, oh no, I didn't. And it's I forgot to do something. So
Yeah.
it's I would always like try to post every day to like show that I was learning how to code. But
Hmm.
that's how I kept myself accountable. And then that's how I started getting onto Instagram and Twitter and all the social medias, and then later find like iOS Dev Happy Hour. And because I loved like the community that was built, I was like, hey, if anyone ever needs help, like let me know. And then that's
Hmm.
how I ended up becoming an organizer with like everybody else, all the other organizers that we have, Chris, Frank, and Alex,
Hmm.
with all of them, and like actually being part of the community. And then we ended up all being in California at the same time, and we had a like real life event. So like from our Zoom meetings that we had every month,
Yeah.
then later on making them at WWDC, Apple's big developer conference, we
Hmm.
had like an in real life meetup for the first time ever. So
Wow.
like that was the whole progress of everything. It all started because I was like, I really want to learn how to program, and
Hmm.
then I started posting just on social media because I think I saw people who did that
Yeah.
at some point, and I was like, oh,
I
that's
also
kind of
did that
cool.
too.
Yeah, and it's like it helps keep you accountable because you're just like, where do you post stuff like that? And it's
Yeah.
like there's Facebook, that people don't use that often, but then like I have all my friends, and I'm like, I don't want my friends seeing me doing programming because they're like, what is that?
Yeah.
So instead, I like made a brand new Instagram and started like
Hmm.
doing that. So I started from like 0 followers and then going and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Congrats. I mean, I think I've followed you from 2019, if I'm not wrong, and I've also
It's
watched your
been a
progress.
while.
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
while. So we've been connected for a while, and I'm really proud of you because you're right. I saw that. And I also remember joining that because I remember I think somebody did announce the 100 days of code, and it really helped many
Hmm.
people. Because I remember also jumping on that bandwagon to just learn more
Yeah.
Kotlin because I was a Java person and I felt very sad that we had to move from Java to Kotlin. But it really helped me like kind of like go back, look into refreshing my skills and kind of like getting back to building with Kotlin
Hmm.
because I was very hesitant. I was that programmer then. I don't want to do, well, why am I learning new things now? But
Yeah.
right now, I have a different mindset. I feel like right now, if another language came out, I'll be like, oh, yeah, let's go. Because at
Yeah.
least I faced it and I'm not
Hmm.
courageous. Cool. Now, the last question. Walk us through what a day in the life of an iOS engineer is.
Okay, so I don't know. It sounds like sometimes to me, it's like every day in the life of an engineer sounds like the same day in the life of every kind of engineer. Of like, you wake up, we have like a stand-up meeting. So we
Oh my
do,
God.
my team is super small,
Hmm.
which is really nice. So, like, my entire company right at the moment is only 12 people. So we
Hmm.
get through our stand-up in like less than 15 minutes, and it's great.
Hmm. Yeah.
So like we all stand up, like, yeah, virtual meeting, and because I work 100% remotely, so
Hmm.
it's all about we just say like the normal, what are our blockers? What did we accomplish yesterday? What are we working on today? Do we
Hmm.
have any blockers? So like any back end issue that may be happening, and like what is the task that we're going to be working on.
Hmm.
So generally, it's for the project that I've been on, it has been have our stand up meeting, kind of doing some work, and then we
Hmm.
have a different stand up meeting with like the actual client. So telling the client what is actually it is that we're working on versus
Hmm.
just telling my team itself, because we are kind of like, it's a software studio because we do have like some of our own apps, but we do consulting as well. So it's I
Nice.
was a part of another developer team. So it's like I
Hmm.
would tell my own team and my own company what I'm doing, but then have a separate stand up that's telling like the client like this is actually what we're working on.
Oh, yeah.
So I would do that and then kind of basically sort of code the rest of the day, unless we had like some different meetings pop up of like talking about design. So the project I was previously on a minute ago was really great because every week, I believe it was, we would have a design meeting so we could see what are the designers up to.
Hmm.
We kind of get like that foreshadow of like, here's what we are about to build, which is exciting rather than only focusing on like something really small.
Hmm.
So that's really fun to see. But then
Yeah.
also during the review, we were able to give input on whatever design it is that they're working on. So we're like, okay, like trying to think of it like engineering wise, can we actually do what it is that the design has? So like,
Hmm.
do we have all the information available within the app, or like does the backend have it, or how do we even get this information, or is it not available at all and we just like we can't even do this, and we have to
Yeah.
tell them that like, hey, we can't do this at all. So
Hmm.
it's really like having those kind of meetings sporadically, but it's also like being able to just sit for sometimes 2 to 3 hours, which is super nice. You got to just sit there and code.
Yeah.
But other times it's usually not that long of a duration before maybe you have like one or two meetings pop up. Um, or you get pulled into either pair program with another person too, which is always fun, I think, because
Hmm.
you get to see how somebody else attacks some kind of problem, because everybody
Yeah.
solves problems differently. So like knowing what the end goal it is that you're trying to accomplish, but then
Hmm.
seeing how you would approach this problem versus how the person you're pairing with, they may approach the problem, and kind of going back and forth and then being like, should we do it this way? Should we not? And how do we really go about like solving a problem? I think is a lot of fun. And that's the really like collaborative aspect of problem solving and like engineering too.
That is very true. I feel like you said a very great point where they're all kind of similar. And I think because they're similar, I would like to ask one more question,
Yeah.
which is how do you kind of like navigate the challenges? Because I know when you're an iOS engineer or an Android engineer or any kind of type of engineer, there's so many challenges like things not
Mhm.
working, your code not working. I want to know how do you handle that?
Yeah, what I do is like I'll look at sometimes what I'm doing and figuring out
Hmm.
like, okay, why has this not been working? And
Hmm.
sometimes it's one of those like, okay, start from scratch. Here's the
Hmm.
problem from the top. And first, it's like you have to understand the problem. You can't solve a problem unless you know what the problem is. So,
Yeah.
like, can you recreate the problem? So that's like one
Mhm.
step. So if you can recreate it, I feel like then, okay, I can recreate the problem. It takes step A, B, C. Okay, well, what's in step A? And then start evaluating a step A where the problem is happening,
Mhm.
and going like step by step through that way. So, like, what is it? The rubber ducky debugging? I'll do that of like, okay, like start from the top, talking to rubber ducky, which, oh, I don't have them on my desk right now. I have one somewhere. Um, but like have one a rubber ducky and go like, okay,
Yeah.
here's what we're doing. And
Yeah.
then after that point, like you're still really stuck about something.
Yeah.
My team has sort of not a policy, but we have like a engineering like
Mhm.
process of like, if you're stuck on something for longer than like 30, 45 minutes, like haven't moved kind of thing, reach
Mhm.
out to our like engineering channel that we have, and
Mhm.
then just ask the question of what it is that you're stuck on, what you've tried to do, and then somebody usually jumps on and can help pair program with you and then get you unstuck. So I was stuck on something for a while, which was probably like an hour or so. And then I
Mhm.
pair programmed with one of the senior developers, and we were done in like 15 minutes. I was like, "How did you think to do this?" I was like,
Yeah.
I was looking at this forever, and I was like, I see what you do. Like, I fully understand why we did it that way, but I'm looking at it, and I was like, arriving from like one step to the next, I was just like, that was just like a leap that I like could not figure out how to get through. So it's
Yeah.
like knowing what it is you're really trying to do, what you've
Mhm.
tried to do. And then
Mhm.
when you really just can't get any further, it's just always asking for help too.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so, so much for being with us today. That was so much great information that you shared with us. It's such an honor to have you. Please, do you have
Yeah,
anywhere
thank
people
you.
can follow you, stay connected with you? Please, it's your time
Yes,
now.
for sure. So yeah, I'm pointing the right way. So down here, this is my Twitter handle.
Yeah.
So that's the monthly meetup that I have is iOSDevHappyHour. This is my Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, which is the exact same thing, except I don't have underscores because I was able to get my name on Twitter. I wasn't, sadly,
Yeah.
but that's generally where you can find me. Not on Mastodon at the moment. That's a whole different thing to figure out how to set up, and I have not gone into that rabbit hole yet. So
Yeah.
mainly Instagram and Twitter are the main places to find me.
Can you also mention the Twitter handle for everybody that's listening? Because I know it's a podcast.
Oh,
Some will
yes.
listen. Yeah.
Um, yes. So my Twitter is my name, Mikaela Caron, but that is spelled Mikaela. It has two underscores because I couldn't even get just one. So we have two underscores. And then my last name is Caron, which is spelled Caron.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing. And I just wish you luck. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you. Thank
This
you
was
so
so
much for having me.
great.